If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. This video is taking a look at the Grey Knights 10th edition preview from Warhammer Community that was released on July 22nd, 2025. The Codex is due to be released on August 9th, 2025. It looks like some have gotten early access to the Codex. This Saturday, July 26th, there should be a flood of Grey Knights information. For now, we will take a look at the Codex preview. We have a name of every detachment with some of the rules for each detachment. We will start with the ones we have the most information on. Warpbane Task Force will still be around after the Codex is released. Our Index detachment, Teleport Strike Force, is gone though. If you want to take a look at the article yourself, it is on the Warhammer Community website. Our army rule is now named Infinity Gates. Grey Knights can safely make short hops into warp through localized portals called Gate of Infinity, and the upcoming Codex Grey Knights is full of ways to use resulting mastery over movement to the fullest. Our old Grey Knights army rule has been replaced by Gate of Infinity. This is not the only change to the Grey Knights army rule. We also have units removed from the battlefield aren't automatically returned in the following reinforcement step, letting them remain in strategic reserves until you need them back in action. This is a strong change for the Grey Knights. We can hold units in reserves until later turns after using Infinity Gate. It is a reposition move, meaning we do not need to bring them back by turn 3. It also opens up the use of rapid ingress. I did notice another little change where we use this at the end of the opponent's fight phase. This has changed too. It used to be at the end of the opponent's turn, now it's at the end of the opponent's fight phase. These are the major changes to the Grey Knights army rule that I've noticed from the article. Let's move on to the new detachments, starting with the Brotherhood Strike. The detachment rule is Fury of Titan. Each time a unit from your army is set up using the Deep Strike ability, until the end of the turn, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll hit roll of 1 and reroll the wound roll of 1. This is the detachment we have the most confirmed information on. The detachment rule is a simple one. Arrive on the battlefield with Deep Strike. That unit will have reroll hits and wounds of 1. How powerful it will be remains to be seen. It is a damage buff, but not a game-changing buff. It does have some restrictions. We have to Deep Strike in that turn. It will only be active on those few units a turn. We do have one of the enhancements as well, Purity of Purpose, Grey Knights model only. Each time a bearer in the unit is set up using the Deep Strike ability, until the end of the turn, you can reroll charges made for the bearer's unit. This enhancement pairs well with the detachment rule to make those 9-inch charges a bit more reliable for the bearer's unit. It is still a 9-inch charge though. You get to reroll the charge, so it does make the chances a bit higher, but still it's not high enough to rely on. As long as Drago is still in the Codex, with his once per game add 3 inches to his charge ability, may be even more useful in the Brotherhood Strike detachment. A decent enhancement, but I do want to see what other enhancements we do have in the detachment. We also get a sneak peek at 2 of the stratagems for the Brotherhood Strike. The first one is Duty on Ending. Your opponent's movement phase just after an enemy within engagement range of 1 or more Grey Knights units from your army falls back. The target is one of those Grey Knights units that is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. If your unit has the Deep Strike ability, it can be placed into strategic reserves. This seems like a different version of Mist of Deimos. I'm not even sure if this is just a different stratagem while still retaining Mist of Deimos. We will find out soon. I like this stratagem. This detachment seems very tricksy. Fall back from one of our units to shoot it with other units. Not today. Pay 1 CP and put that Grey Knights unit into reserves. This is not the only confirmed back into reserves rule for this detachment either. We also have Expeditious Exit. End of your opponent's fight phase, 1 Grey Knights Psyker infantry unit from your army. If every model in your unit has the Deep Strike ability, remove your unit from the battlefield and place it into strategic reserves. We do have a designer's note here. This stratagem allows you to remove a unit in addition to those removed using the Gate of Infinity rule, and it allows you to remove a unit with an engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. The second confirmed stratagem from the Brotherhood Strike is another return to reserves stratagem. We can start to see the theme of this detachment. It is more of an expensive stratagem though. 2 CP to return a unit into reserves that has an engagement range is wild though. Definitely a rule that will feel like a gotcha. Make sure your opponent is aware of this stratagem when you start your game, and just remind them throughout the game, especially when you're first playing this codex. I wanted some Grey Knights with some more tricks. I think this detachment might just do that. The next detachment is the Augurium Task Force. Our detachment rule is Prescient Redeployment from the second battle round onwards at the start of your movement phase. If you do not select the maximum number of Grey Knights units from your army using the Gate of Infinity ability at the end of your opponent's previous turn, you can select one Grey Knight unit from your army that is on the battlefield that could have been selected using Gate of Infinity. Remove that unit from the battlefield and place it into strategic reserves. Another designer's note, this means you can retain its position on the battlefield at the end of your command phase and then be placed into strategic reserves at the start of your movement phase and set it up again in your reinforcement step in another position. I'm not sure how I think about this detachment rule. I can see the scoring and positional potential. It is only one unit per turn. I would like to see the rest of the detachment rules to make my final judgment. For now, I can see the scoring potential. We can combine all of this with the one stratagem that was shown in the article. That stratagem was Redirected Strike. At the end of your command phase, one Grey Knight Psyker unit from your army that is not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. Your unit has the Deep Strike ability and it can be placed into strategic reserves. Designer's note, this stratagem allows players to utilize abilities that retain control of objective markers and react to the missions and objectives with this unit. This stratagem can be used at the end of the command phase. It gives us another way to keep a unit on the board to score points and then put it in reserves for later turns, or even drop it back down on the table somewhere else in our movement phase. Draw behind enemy lines, use this stratagem to pick up a unit at the end of the command phase, only to drop the same unit down in the enemy deployment to score behind enemy lines. So far, a lot of these detachments have some tricks they can pull throughout a game. The next detachment is the Banishers detachment. This looks like to be the infantry and characters psychic detachment. We don't get to see the detachment rule, but we do get a sneak peek at a stratagem from the Banishers detachment. Other than the text above is the only confirmed information about the detachment. It looks to be our infantry character with a side of extra warp magic detachment. All of these detachments have me curious so far. I'm starting to really look forward to the Grey Knight Codex. The stratagem shown off is Hexrot Reprisal. At the end of any phase, one Grey Knight Psyker unit from your army that is on the battlefield and suffered one or more mortal wounds this phase. Select one enemy unit which inflicted one or more of those mortal wounds to your unit that phase, then roll a number of dice equal to the number of mortal wounds your unit has suffered this phase. For each 2+, that enemy unit suffers one mortal wound to a maximum of 6 mortal wounds. These mortal wounds are psychic attacks. I won't lie, this stratagem is not that exciting. I like the idea of it, it's just a bit too many hoops to go through for what will be a few mortal wounds. First, we have to have taken some mortal wounds from the enemy army, then roll a d6 for every mortal wound taken that phase. On a 2+, the selected enemy unit takes one mortal wound. It is a bit too situational for me. Hopefully this is the weakest stratagem in the detachment. It can be a fun stratagem. Someone uses grenade or some other mortal wounds ability on you, you can throw some mortal wounds back at them. But for the most part, I'm still not really sure how strong this stratagem will be. I could be wrong, but we'll find out. Next up is the Hallowed Conclave detachment. The paragraph we got for this detachment, the remaining two detachments focus more on hitting hard than moving around. The Hallowed Conclave is built around the Grey Knight's iconic Terminators. A charge from the Silver Behemoths hits with enough force to buckle armor plates and smash lesser foes into pace, as evidenced by the grind them underfoot stratagem. There's not much to take out of this except we are getting a Terminators detachment. This makes me a happy Grey Knight. I like my Terminators. I'm looking forward to the range refresh whenever it does happen. That stratagem, grind them underfoot. Your charge phase just after a Grey Knight's Terminator unit from your army ends a charge move. Select one enemy unit within engagement range of your unit. Then roll a d6 for each model in your unit that is within engagement range of that enemy unit. For each 4+, that enemy unit suffers one mortal wound to a maximum of 6 mortal wounds. That means mortal wounds on the charge. If the Terminators still have their hammer hand ability for lethal hits on the charge, enemy units are not going to be like being charged by our Terminators. Something I like about this preview is there seems to be a lot of mortal wounds output. It gives the Grey Knights more of an identity. They teleport around the board using the warp to deal some mortal wounds. It's something I can get behind. It feels different than the Custodes or the Salamanders that we cover on the channel. The last detachment is the Sanctic Spearhead. In this detachment, it looks like our vehicles will have an auto 6-inch advance when they advance and then assault on their weapons. The Sanctic Spearhead is the detachment we know the least about. This paragraph is the only preview we got in this detachment. An all-vehicle detachment does give us another very different looking detachment. There's not much else to say about this one. I'm betting the people who love running the Dread Knights are really going to enjoy this detachment. That's all 5 detachments from our new Grey Knights Codex. Let's move on to some final thoughts. Even though we have only seen a few of the new rules, it has me looking forward to the Grey Knights Codex. I have about 3,500 points of Grey Knights all painted up and waiting to go. We will be covering a lot of Grey Knights content on the channel when the Codex comes out. We will, of course, still have our Custodes and Salamanders videos. I want to build up the Grey Knights players on the channel to give them a place to go for weekly videos. I'll put a link for this article below in the description for anyone who wants to read this article for themselves. Subscribe for weekly battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content. Channel members gain early access to videos and an invite to the channel Discord. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.